Fashionably late.
We're late, we're live, we're late.
Fashionably late, it's okay.
I'm that asshole who's always early, so for me, I'm all perturbed right now. I'm not gonna lie. It's okay. I'll just have to crack a beverage to calm myself down.
Yeah, you always need to crack a beverage.
Mm-hmm.
So guys, as usual, just give me a few seconds so I can share the link everywhere.
Yep, you do get
and then we can start.
Cincy madness. Oh my god. I swear to God, Montreal owes me a box of hair dye from a Graze.
Oh yeah, these Cincy games are crazy every time.
I
every
can't
single time.
handle it. I'm not gonna make it. I could cry.
Okay, I'm almost done.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not done yet, guys. Won't be too long, but
worry.
I'll be done in a few seconds.
There were a lot of goals in the league in general this weekend so far.
Yeah.
Like there were 5 goals in LAFC in San Jose. There was 5 goals for Red Bull DC match. Toronto and Chicago had 5 goals going in not the right direction. Yes, our game yesterday had 7. They had 4.
It's almost predictable. You were sitting at the stadium, you kind of knew it would happen, and that Cincy would come back and score and stuff.
Yeah, you could kind of feel it. What's funny, it was like when I went to visit Steven, on You Ain't Lying for the Cincy podcast, they had asked, and I think I predicted 3-3, and I was like, okay, surely they can't score all those many goals again, but
of course they can.
Of course they can, and then some. Oh my god, I'm telling you, this team. What are we gonna do?
That's nice. It was a good game.
We're done playing Cincy for the year, at least. Barring playoffs and stuff. But yeah, we're no more Cincy for the rest of the year. So hopefully, hopefully a little bit more calmness.
Okay, guys, so we can go whenever you guys are ready.
I'm ready.
Born
Let's
ready.
get it going.
So let's start with the countdown, guys, and see you in a bit.
Hello, my friends. My name is Samuel Savvy, and this week on the show, Montreal sit third in the East and clinch a Canadian Championship semi-final berth. Piet, Johnston, and Miller all in John Herdsman's June list, and the friendly versus Iran is cancelled on short notice. This and a lot more in episode 84 of The Ball is Wrong. And as usual, I'm joined by my friends Yves Paul and Adi Raphael, and special guest this week, Alexandre Gangué-Ruzic, web editor for One Soccer and co-founder of Between the Sticks. How is everyone? I'll start with you, Alex.
I'm doing great. I mean, pleasure to join you guys for today's show. I mean, I've had a busy week of soccer over here on the West Coast, but always a pleasure to chat. The best team in Canada right now, at least in terms of performances, CF Montreal. They've been leading the way. So exciting to talk about you guys, because you've been fun to watch. It's been fun to tune into as many Montreal games as able to around here.
Yeah, most definitely. Yves, Hady, everything's good?
Yeah, barely recovered after yesterday. It was a long day, but yes,
what a game.
It was good.
Yeah, same for me, man. Same for me. It was really a long day. And I had to wake up this morning at 5 a.m. because my kids wanted to be up and running and start to play. I was like, let me sleep just half an hour. But no, he didn't want to. So yeah, but I'm very, very happy to have Alex here. Really, really nice.
Yes.
Nice of him to free up some time for the bonus round. Really.
Yeah, man. And just to make sure, for anyone who missed it, we dropped a full episode regarding the release of the new logo on Friday. So it was an emergency episode. If you want our full breakdown of the issue, just go and take a listen. It's episode 83. But we cannot have Alex on without asking him about the logo. So just wanted to prick your brains on it. How do you find it?
I thought it was pretty nice. I mean, I think it was a big improvement. It's probably what they should have done the first time around. Kind of stuck with the history, the blue and black. Just the fleur de lis. Just the kind of the circle element. I guess I get why they want to do that. They wanted to keep the modern look, but also do nod some elements to the past. I mean, I think it's all pretty good. You can get into the debate of the name versus not. I mean, personally, I always just find it so ridiculous that they want to cut out all the soul and all the culture out of North American soccer. I mean, you saw it happen with the Columbus Crew when they tried to do that. But in terms of the logo, if they're gonna get rid of the name, I always thought it was weird that they completely want to strip the history, and feels long overdue to see 1993 and the blue and black and the fleur de lis and all the things that really make you think of Montreal, because Montreal's been around for so long. It would have been such a shame to see that erased, and I think that was nice to see them bring it back the way they did.
Yeah, so for the people that haven't seen it yet, I'm just going to put it here on the live. So this is the new logo of CF Montreal to be in place starting 2023, so starting next year.
Yeah, definitely. So like I said, if you want the full breakdown, it's episode 83, 83. My bad. Guys, we'll jump right into the review of the Cincinnati game because there's a lot to talk about in this show. It's a big one. So, Cincy came into Montreal for the last game before the international break, having previously lost to New England after riding a 4-game winning streak. For us, we were riding a 2-game losing streak in MLS after dropping back-to-back games in Nashville and at home to RSL. It was a 6-pointer as Cincy were only sitting 1 point behind us in the Eastern Conference standings. So Wilfred Nancy went with Breza from right to left in defense, Johnston, Waterman, Camacho, Miller, and Lapalainen. In midfield, we had Wanyama, Chouanière, and Mihailovic. Up front, Torres and Kyoto. Guys, was there any surprises in the lineup for you? And maybe Mathieu Chouanière keeping his place next to Victor Wanyama?
Honestly, I wasn't super surprised to see Mathieu Chouanière start because, Saint-Pierre had a really big game against Forge midweek. So undoubtedly, as he works his way back from injury, that's, something to be mindful of. And Ismail Kone still isn't fit 100%. And Ahmed Hamdi, unfortunately, he just really hasn't lived up to kind of what we've been hoping to see from him. But Mathieu Chouanière as well, he's got that versatility, and I've enjoyed seeing him in a central midfield role, which we haven't gotten a large sample size of before. So I wasn't super surprised myself.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear Alex on this because, we know Kone. Kone very physical, used to be a winger, that's now playing as a central mid, called up in with the Canada squad at one point. But I feel like Mathieu Chouanière, when you talk about the team like Cincy that plays very defensively, very physical, to have someone that plays a bit more, doesn't project himself, a bit too much up front. I think it gives a bit more options for the defense to have some sort of a relay and to move the ball forward. So what do you think about that choice, Alex, for that game against Cincy?
Well, I've been interested by this kind of Chouanière in midfield role. I mean, I know in Montreal they say it was his natural position. It's just he looks so comfortable on wing back or left and right side. He looks really, comfortable in those wide areas. You kind of wonder, was he going to be as comfortable in the MLS and in an MLS midfield where it's a lot faster, a lot more physical. But he is very skilled. I'm impressed. Like, he's so good with both feet. He can play quick. He's not necessarily physically imposing, but he's comfortable turning and whatnot on the ball. I think it's an interesting move if you want to kind of have, now you have all of a sudden 4 really different profiles if you're looking at those positions. I guess 5 if you include read a zoo here, because you look at Victor Wanyama, the way he kind of holds things down. He wants to slow the game down a bit more, do a little more defensive. Then you got Samuel Piet, who's also like that, but he's, he likes to push the play forward a little more now. He's really improved that side of his game. You got Kone, who just wants to drive the ball forward at every opportunity. And then now you kind of got Choinière, who's kind of a hybrid of, he's not as driven as Kone in the sense, Kone in the sense where he's not going to drive the ball forward every time, but he's kind of more like an one of those progressive passing ball number sixes. So I think it's an interesting profile for Montreal to have, and I think it's Choinière he's going to be such a key player for Montreal going forward, because I feel like when he's healthy, Nancy can shove him in any role. I'm comfortable. I'd say wing back, center mid. I honestly think he could do a job, in one of Mihailovic's or the underneath the striker role. If you can have that sort of versatility, it'll be huge to experiment with.
Yeah, I agree. And you know what? Nancy said at one point, sorry, Sam. He said at one point, I wanted to put a profile that's between a 6 and an 8, next to Wanyama. And that's exactly what Mathieu Choinière is. In my head, okay, it's a big analogy, right? But in my head, he's like the Pirlo of CF Montreal, Of course, he's not as good. Look at Yves. I know that Yves is like doing your big eyes and everything. But like, he can play that number 6. He can play from the back. He can give those long diagonals. He's able to switch the ball from one side to the other. That's exactly what you want to see next to Wanyama when you have a team like Cincy as an opponent. Sorry, Sam, I cut you off.
No, I was going there. I was exactly going where you went. So, guys, the game started. It was a pretty choppy start of the game until the 12th minute where
Cincinnati.
Cincy, my bad, scored on that set play. It's kind of becoming a trend, it seems, because, the RSL game, there was that we conceded on that kind of hybrid man-to-man defending of the corner. Same thing here. And once again, we're talking about Mathieu Choinière. He was the player that was involved. So, Yves, I know you absolutely love zonal marking on corners. What do you think of it?
I hate zonal marking. I hate it with every fiber of my being. I'm not sure, though, how much zonal defending can be to blame on this particular goal, because it felt like, and what's really funny is it was basically a carbon copy of what happened at the other end for the equalizer. It felt like somebody missed their man, because Junior Moreno was able to get in between the center back and the keeper. And he was able to find himself in that perfect no man's land. So I do have to wonder if it wasn't so much an individual error in this case as a marking system. Not that I am going to start being a proponent for zonal marking anytime in the near future.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate goal to concede. But whenever a goal is scored and is conceded, right, there's always an error somewhere, right? There's always someone that makes an error that when a goal is conceded, right? And looking at that goal, I don't want to blame anyone, because that's the kind of goals that can happen, and that what, at the end of the day, you're gonna get scored on. So I'd rather have this kind of goal go in than a really weird and ridiculous mistake from a defender. So you know what? I'm okay with conceding that goal. I didn't like the whole sequence before the corner. I didn't like it at all.
Oh yeah.
Thank God we had Alistair Johnston that came back and cleaned everything up. So that if we had conceded on that play, I would have been a lot really unhappy. But on the corner, I'm like, you know what? We conceded a goal. Yeah. Let's move on.
Fair enough.
Alex?
Yeah, I mean, the whole defending set pieces, it's a tough one, because, I mean, you forget also that on the other side, offensive teams, it's almost easier for them to exploit certain defensive markings. You get a flick, you get a size mismatch, you get some sort of matchup that doesn't go your favor. I mean, what I did note on the goal, you can't really be flat-footed, especially when the ball hits someone's head. Like, you have to be moving for a flick, for the rebound. And I think credit to Junior Moreno that he was moving. It's smart. As soon as it hits someone's head, you have to be ready. And unfortunately, kind of looking at that goal, Montreal's defenders were flat-footed. I think they thought it was going wide, and then it ends up in their net. It's a good learning lesson.
Yeah, because I mean, Choignard was the one marking Moreno, and once the header went on, Choignard went one way, and Moreno went completely the other way. So I think you're right that I think the Montreal players must have misjudged the trajectory of the ball.
Guys, 5 minutes following Cincy's goals, Georgi Mihailovic went down for the second time, furthering his left ankle. He left the field in tears and was seen later with a bandage around his left ankle. The good news is that he wasn't on crutches, nor was he sporting a boot. Hady, Wilfried Nancy did give an update on his condition.
Yeah, he did. But you know what? It's very early to get a real update, right? But Wilfried Nancy got the first words, and he's like, I was told that it wasn't very, very bad. So hopefully, he said that hopefully, he's going to be okay, and he's going to be able to travel and go with the U.S. national team. But you never know, right? You never know in these circumstances. I remember when Piet was injured, at first it wasn't supposed to be as long as a couple of months. But it took a couple of months. So hopefully, let's hope that Georgie can be healthy very, very soon.
Yeah.
And Ahmed Hamdi replaced him. So I was intrigued to see if the sub would be like for like, or maybe we'd see Mathieu Choignard playing higher up the pitch, but it was effectively Hamdi playing that out-and-out number 10 role. In the 21st minute, following a corner by Joaquin Torres, Kamal Miller produced a clever flick onto Joel Waterman, who scored his second goal of the season. Waterman had a huge week once again, guys. Were you surprised to see him omitted of John Herdsman's upcoming list, given how well he's performed recently?
I gotta think he must have been like the very last name cut from that list, man.
Most probably, yeah.
Well, it was funny because I actually got to speak to Joel for something I worked on, and I asked him because I was kind of like seeing if he was going to give me any sort of hint. I'm like, have you talked to John Herdman? Have you called? And he said, he's like, yeah, I'm just kind of on the standby list. So I guess he was like really close in the sense that, like, say if something happens now, I mean, if there's an injury or something, he's the next guy on the plane. But I think he just missed out, which is surprising. I think what I'm seeing from it is I think John Herdman wants to keep a smaller center back group, just because when you're looking at a roster across 3 games, you're very unlikely to rotate your center backs, whereas, it's nice to have extra midfielders, extra fullbacks, extra forwards. So I think that for Joel Waterman, like for me, if I was picking a squad, he'd be in. He's been that good. He fits the system. It really makes sense. I think he just might be kind of an unfortunate position for Canada, where they're going to want to go a little lighter, but I also don't know why. Maybe you call him up, see if he's better than what you have, and he claws his way in. But I guess he's going to have to wait for his chance.
No, that's the thing. I mean, Steven Vitória has not been getting a ton of playing time as the Portuguese season winds down.
There's a couple of things too. First of all, we always know, and every time we ask John Herdman about Donil Henry being picked up, he talks about the leadership in a locker room. And now, if you talked about Steven Vitória, and we know that also it's the leadership in the locker room. So I'm like, don't we have enough leadership in the locker room?
Also, Sam Pieters, like usually brought in for his leadership.
Exactly. So, I don't know. I'm curious to know, Alex, like, do you think that, Waterman could have taken one of those 2 spots from either Henry or Vitória, knowing all the circumstances around their playing season?
I think on paper, yes, they would pass. And I think, say, if things keep up, Waterman's going to pass both of them after the World Cup. I just think the fact is Vitória played such a big role in getting them there. Daniel Henry as well, he's been playing such a big role in getting them there. At this point, unless something happens where they're like really, something bad happens, an injury happens, or they're really not playing, they're going to be in the squad. And I think, because the thing is with center back, it's such a weird position. It's one of those positions where you just kind of you saw it with Canada too, like Vittoria, that he hadn't played. You plugged him right in January. He looked great, and it's one of those positions where it's not like you don't necessarily have to be playing week in week out. You can just kind of jump in and do your thing. So that's the thing with Waterman. It's really just bad timing, I think, for him. He's done everything he can do. All he can really do is sit and wait, and who knows, maybe he'll get called up on like an extra long list for Qatar and maybe be around the team just in case. But I just think Henry and Vittoria, their spots are pretty much solid until the World Cup, and then after it'll be Waterman's turn.
Yeah, and Chan says that Vitória teams is relegated now from the Portuguese first league. So
I knew today was like the do or die day. I guess it was the die.
It was a die day, exactly. But the second thing too, I was able to ask we were able to ask him after the game, what he thought about all that, and I kind of liked his answer, because his answer was like, I didn't really have specific talks with John Herdman, but he said, what, I'm doing what I can. In January, he told me to get more minutes. I'm getting more minutes, and you know what? I'm controlling what I can control, and at the end of the day, if they need me, they know where to find me. So they seem to be a bit of bitterness in his answer. I don't know. Maybe I'm misreading the whole thing, but like there seemed to be a bit of bitterness.
Well, I don't know. It kind of just reads like I mean, he can. What he's saying is very, very true. He can only control what he's doing and make good and have good performances and get the minutes. And he's gotten certainly no shortage of minutes this season, plus contributing goals, which is a bonus.
Exactly.
So I mean, he's doing what he can, but at the same time, there's all the other center backs on the list who are also doing lots of hard work. So
yeah, they're not playing, but he's been asked, play, get more minutes. He's getting more minutes.
He did it.
And other players that are not getting minutes are going ahead of him.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can understand why he would be a bit bitter.
Yeah.
Right?
No, I agree why he's a bit salty, but I completely understand where Alex is coming from, and to be honest, that's how I read it as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, guys, it was an open and entertaining first half until at a time when Mathieu Chouanière dispossessed Lucio Acosta and Joaquin Torres delivered a brilliant ball to Kyoto, who scored a bit of a fluke goal. Montreal went into halftime with a 2-1 lead. Guys, what were your impressions of the first half? And most importantly, which adjustments were you expecting or looking for? Start with you, Hady.
Man, there was a big pressing from Cincy, and again we've seen it. Yes. We've seen it in the last couple of games from opponents of CF Montreal. A lot of pressure on the midfielders, on the two midfielders, the Wanyama and the Chouanière, or Wanyama or Kone, whoever is in those midfield two. A lot of pressure on them, and that created a lot of chances for Cincy. Now, if you look at clear chances in the first half, Montreal has the upper hand, because we didn't talk about that breakaway, the first breakaway that Kyoto had on a terrific pass from Torres. Terrific, really amazing pass, and then unfortunately Kyoto missed the target. But if you look at clear chances, Montreal had the upper hand. But when you look at all the chances and the whole thing, you're like, you know what? We're kind of lucky to be 2-1 ahead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's That's like when how. Okay, so I was kind of, I guess, a little bit of that jerk. But at halftime, they did kind of a quick little ceremony on the pitch with the players mid game, and I was like, no, I was like, maybe if you're winning 6-0 and this is a friendly or something. But I was like, this is not a domination by Montreal in any circumstance. I was like, oh my god, please don't pull these players out of game mode to take pictures with the owner and the president. Yeah. Sorry guys, owner and president. I was like, no, I understand it was like a max a minute and a half that they were out there, but I was like, it's normal, it's breaking routine. Oh my gosh, and it bothered me deeply. But with that being said, obviously, it did not screw them up too much coming back from the locker room.
I saw that high press. Sometimes it was 5, even sometimes 6 players implicated.
It was
so.
Wild.
when Nasi did go with the substitution, it clicked in my mind. I said, man, Torres wasn't having a bad game, but Nasi needed a way to get out of under pressure, and we saw the way of playing change completely when we went into the second half. It was quick balls out, and Kai Kamara was the obvious target up front. Kyoto can be a very good outlet pass, but
Yeah.
Kamara gives you so much more in that opportunity. So I really like the substitution. I sometimes we feel maybe Wilfried Nasi tends to be very patient and stretch a bit of his stubs, but this he went right into it, and I think he was rewarded. Well, he was rewarded because Kai Kamara produced that fantastic pass to Mathieu Chouanière for the third goal. Guys, what did you think of that pass?
Let's hear from Alex, man.
I mean, Kai Kamara, he's been surprising me lately. I mean, I think of that pass too for Zanussi Ibrahim goal in midweek as well. That was great awareness to set up Zanussi in that case, and then in this case was Chouanière to whip it in, and I mean, that's some finish as well from Chouanière.
Yeah,
I was impressed to see the volley, half volley, kind of into the top corner, but. Yeah, I've been interested to see how Kai Kamara has kind of been playing with Montreal, because typically he's always been lead the line, lone number 9, target man, front man, just play through him, and then that's kind of been the system. Whereas with Montreal, because Kyoto is more of that guy for Montreal, he's kind of had to adapt to be, the second guy or the guy underneath, playing a little deeper, and he's shown some really good hold-up play. Like, I've been impressed the way he holds up the ball and is playing, and he's showing to be a playmaker, because I think his reputation always been he's just good in the air, he's good with his head. And I mean, when I saw him in Vancouver, you could see that wasn't the case. You could always see he was really good with his feet, but I think it's kind of cool how he's adapted to this new role and this making passes like this on the regular. I think he must have almost 4 or 5 assists already this year, which is not something I'd expect from someone like Kai Kamara.
Mm-hmm. No,
Yes,
super unselfish. I'm sorry, I was so happy.
But I wanted to ask you guys, and I'll start with you, Yves. How does Wilfried Nasi always seem to exactly know how, when, and why to use Kai Kamara? This has been really one of the strong points of Wilfried Nasi this season. Is the way he uses Kamara has been almost spot on since the start of the year.
Yeah, especially because, as Alex highlighted, Kai Kamara in his previous teams, and there's no shortage of them in MLS, he played a way different role typically than he's been playing with Montreal, and he's been a lot more involved and way more of a team player, if you will. Not that I don't think he was that ever, but and I agree. Like, it seems as though Wilfried Nasi has really quickly come to understand him, especially given that he was a really late add in the squad. And a part of me wonders if Kai Kamara, because he's been such a long-term veteran of MLS, is he able to communicate, what he can and can't do, and when he feels the time is right and whatnot? Is he able to communicate that with Wilfried Nasi? Yeah. In such a way, because Wilfried Nasi, he's not been a coach, but he's been on the sidelines in MLS for many years himself. So I wonder if the two having something of a long-term presence allows them to have an understanding for that.
Yeah, and you know what's nice about it, I don't know if you guys remember when Kai Kamara signed with CF Montreal. I remember the presser, and not the presser with Kai Kamara, but maybe the pre-game presser with Nasi. And he was asked, "What do you think Kai Kamara signing?" Is like, he wasn't really enthusiastic about the signing. He was like, "Yeah, you know what? Yeah, he's gonna give us whatever time he can give us, and his role. Let's hope that he understands his role, and we'll see what he can bring." And now you see how important he is in the locker room, on the pitch, and everywhere. Alex talked about his assists, 4 assists right now since the beginning of the season. That's amazing. He's also scored 3 goals already. So you know what? That's pretty nice for a striker that was supposed to be the guy that comes in to maybe cover Mason Stoy's absence. Mm-hmm. Now it's going to be very, very hard when Mason Toye is going to be back.
I know.
To split the time between the strikers. It's going to be very, very, very bad.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why Onasi wasn't too enthusiastic. He knew he had a headache when Mason Toy would come back.
Yeah, that's life, man.
Yeah,
Life,
of course.
coach's
I
life,
think it's
right?
an all right headache to have.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah, it's
darn,
a
I
nice
have
problem for sure.
too many strikers who want to give me good performances. It's rare in Montreal that Montreal's had that problem.
Oh man. Guys, in the 52nd minute, Alvaro Barreal scored completely unmarked in the penalty area. Barreal did drift away from Wanyama's coverage, but you have to think the trio of center backs were very deep on that play. I want to hear you guys, what did you make of their overall performance as a unit?
The three center backs.
Yeah.
I mean, because they were all together, because they were all together deep. A part of me was wondering if it had been some sort of tactic from the coach, because it wasn't, like there was one random player out of place. They were all very deep. So I was like, either everybody got a very wrong and clear message, or none of them got the message at all from the coach. And they're at least there's chemistry, even if it's not in the good sense, but. I know we didn't talk much about it, but I think Victor Wanyama had a really tough night last night. I think it was a tougher night for him when it came to covering ground, when it came to marking players. I yeah. So I don't think that helped circumstances any at all either.
We ask a lot from Victor Wanyama,
We do.
guys. We ask a lot from him, and guys. He played 3 games out in the last 11 days, and he seemed like exhausted on the pitch, like really exhausted. And, I talked to him at the presser afterwards, and, he was like, he's like, okay, we won. Let's go rest now. He's going to London. He's going to London because his family is in London right now. So at least he's not going to Kenya. So it's not going to be a very, very long trip, like going to Africa or to Kenya. So I think I don't want to blame Victor Wanyama because really we're asking too much from him, too much. Mm-hmm. Alex, do you think this guy has been so important for Montreal? Do you think that we're like overusing him somehow, or?
I mean, the thing is, there's no real, I guess, replacement. The closest is Piet, but even Piet doesn't offer, like, the thing is with Wanyama this year, what I've noticed a lot is just like he's dominant. Like he's really like in the other his first few years in MLS, like you could tell he was really good, but he was kind of just, I don't know if he was figuring out the league, if he was tired, if maybe the team around him wasn't necessarily built for him. But now he's just been so dominant, and I think the way he plays, it's tiring. Like he's, I think of a few games I've seen him play. It's just he's always running, tackling, then he's covering the ground. He has to play the whole game because he doesn't really have a direct replacement. Especially Montreal, this 3-4, 3-4-2-1 system. There's a lot of work to do in the midfield defensively because your fullbacks or your wingbacks are high up the pitch. Sometimes, Kamal Miller pushes up the pitch and Wanyama needs to cover for all that. So I think it's just the role he's asked, and it's going to be taxing. I think he can handle it. He's always got that, but I think it's something to watch for. I think it's smart that, for example, that against Forge, Nancy rested him. I think those are the sorts of moments you have to pick and choose so you can be healthy for the playoffs. But it's just kind of until they find a direct natural replacement, which you can't. He's a DP. He's one of the best players at his position. It's going to be all about managing.
Yeah. No, for sure. And I think he's shown how much he's important to this team. And we always hear some people say, yeah, but we have Sam Piet. He can replace Wanyama. I think they're two different of players. They're very complementary. If you need to have both of them on the pitch, they can work very well together in a tandem. But I don't think Victor Wanyama can replace Sam Piet, or Sam Piet can replace Victor Wanyama. They're two distinct part of this team that make a whole. So. Yeah, you're right, Alex. He's just showed how much he's important to the team, and that we can't really get by. I don't think we can get by without him there right now. So yeah, guys, Montreal regained its 2-goal advantage from a goal from the penalty spot by Romel Kyoto following a handball by Nick Haglund. But in the 63rd minute, Cincy once again reduced the deficit. It was a good goal by Junior Moreno, but similarly to Cincy's second goal, Montreal's defense was caught so deep that there was no one to close the shot down. I want to ask you guys, was this tendency the reason why Wilfried Nancy felt the need to bring in Sam Piet literally a minute after that goal?
Well, I think. Why don't you go ahead first, Hady?
Oh, yeah, I think that's obvious. It's obvious because we've seen, this game was crazy, as all games against Cincy. It's always crazy. And at one point, Wilfried Nancy has said, I think enough is enough, right? We scored 4 goals. I don't want to have to score 7 goals in order to win a game, right? So, putting Piet in was, I think, the most logical thing for Wilfried Nancy. And yes, he wanted to close things out in a way because you're not sure how many goals you still have in your team when they already scored 4, right? So you can't really rely on scoring more than 4 goals. So I think that was the logical move for Wilfried Nancy.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say exactly the same thing. It was like better safe than sorry, very much so, because it was once again one of those hot mess matches. Against Montreal, or against Cincy, sorry.
I want to ask you, Alex, what do you make of these people? Because in Montreal, that trended for a bit. We don't hear it as much these days, but that maybe Sam Piet could miss out on that list for Qatar.
That's going to be the tough one, because I think the midfield is very competitive, but I think I guess he has an advantage in the sense that all these new players coming through, they don't really play his position. Even the fact that he's a number 6, it's Hutchinson, it's Eustachio, and it's him. And I think because of that, all these new guys you hear about who are pushing, like, Kone, for example, is one of them. Even Chouanier now, who I'm sure will start to be included in that discussion. You look across, they're all kind of number 8s, number 10s. So I think because of that, Piet's kind of secure in his place. And what I think is important is that he's shown to be good in that super sub role. Because a lot of midfielders, some of them, they don't necessarily influence games off the bench. Some of them, they're just best served starting games. What I always find interesting with Piet is when you start him at minute 1 or you start him at minute 60, he comes in and influences the game in his way. And I think that's a skill. Because some players, they need to be starting. They need to know in their head they're playing. They can kind of set the tempo. They study the game. They kind of adapt to it. Whereas someone like Piet, you can throw him in, and Canada's done that a lot. They'll throw him in late in games, and he does a job. And I think because of that role and what he fills, that's key to have on a team. Because on a team like Canada, when you have a lot of top players, some of them aren't used to coming off the bench. Some of them need to start to have an impact. Whereas with Piet, in a game you're winning, you're losing. If you want to kill off the game, you can bring him on and he'll change things up, as he did. I think there's a few games that I can remember from this run to Qatar where he really did a great job of doing that for Canada.
Yeah. Guys, you're in that same vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have the same vibe. And the other thing also that's, I think, very important with Sam Piet, and I remember, I think I said it once here on The Ball Is Round. I remember at one point they did, I don't know if you were there, Alex, when John Herdman presented his tactical shape they did some sort of conference for like 2 or 3 hours where he explained, how tactically he moves the things around for other coaches and for, everybody that wanted to across the nation. I was there and I really watched that because I was very curious on how things were put in place. And every time he used to show a sequence, there was Sam Piet that was involved. Now, at one point, he said something. He's like, you know what? Every time I do that, you see Sam Piet, and the reason why you see him because he understands the way I want to play so well. He knows how to move in my system. He knows everything that I need to put in place. He knows, the triangles that I'm trying to do, everything that tactically I want to see happen. Sam Piet can understand it. And I think that's something that's very, very important for John Herdman, to have someone that really knows his system so well. So I think that helped. And the other thing that I wanted to say, after the logo presentation, I had the opportunity to talk to Sam Piet. He was the one that was brought up for questions and everything. And I asked him, I'm like, you haven't played that much, and do you were you afraid not to be included in the list? And he answered. He was very honest because he always is. And he was like, you know what? I'm gonna be very honest with you. Yes, I was very afraid because I didn't play that much. But you know what? I did play a bit, and I got the call, and I was very very happy to get the call. And hopefully I'll always get the call and be called up. So what I liked is that those questions that we've been asking ourselves. He asked himself the same questions too because he's not a starter, right? In that team, in the CF Montreal right now, he's not a starting, and that's a bit worrying.
Yeah. Guys, back to the game. The last substitutions from Nancy were the inclusions of Matko Miljevic and Zoran Basong in the 84th minute, who replaced Kyoto and Lapalainen. So Montreal held on to the victory and cemented their third place in the Eastern Conference before the break. Eve, you were at your usual station in section 127. What did you think of the atmosphere in the stadium and your overall night at Saputo?
Yeah, so it was a beautiful night, and a lot of people had been really concerned it was going to rain, but lo and behold, the sun came out. There was a big tailgate before the game as well, and I mean, we ran out of smoke to use because of all the goals at the end. Unfortunately, we didn't have any left. Oh my gosh. But I thought overall it was a really good atmosphere. I was quite surprised when the attendance was announced at being 14,225.
Yeah, it looked like more.
It felt like more. I don't know so much about looking because it's not ideal angles to see everybody in the stadium everywhere. But it felt like there were more people in the stadium. So yeah, I was surprised, but overall, I mean, I'm glad that everybody who was there seemed to be really enjoying themselves, and they certainly got bang for their buck in this match. If it was your first time at Stade Saputo.
Oh, yeah, there was a guy right in front of me. It was his first game, didn't know much of soccer, and at the end of the game, he was talking about season tickets. So I think it was a really good one for anyone who wanted to come for the first time.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was good. Hady, you were at the post-game presser. What did Coach Nassi have to say?
A couple of things very interesting in my opinion. The first one, he was asked why Hamdi and not Matko. Knowing that Matko, gave 3 assists against Forge.
Yeah.
And he's like, you know what, Hamdi was more fresh, right? And he needed freshness on the pitch. Matko, played 90 minutes and played. Did he play 90 minutes against Forge? I think so.
Well,
right?
yeah, pretty sure he did, no?
I don't remember.
There's 5 subs. I think I don't know anymore. Yeah.
But Hamdi didn't play. That's something.
Yeah.
So that's why he explained. He explained the substitution being, he wanted to put someone that has, that had the legs to fill in for Georgi Mihailovic because, Georgi Mihailovic runs a lot, right, on the pitch. So he needed someone that's really fresh. The second thing that I find very interesting, I asked him that question and I told him, listen, how can you explain the fact that you're first in the East in goals scored and second in goals conceded? And he's like, you know what? I'm going to answer you. He looked at me, he smirked, and he's like, I'm going to tell you something, because at the beginning of the season, you guys were complaining that we weren't scoring much. Now we're scoring much. We're conceding a bit more. He's like, you know what? I don't want to give an answer right now. All I want right now is to take a step back, to go on holiday and maybe address the situation on our way back. But yes, we need to be better defensively. So that's the 2 questions that I found that were very very interesting. And of course, when he said he was asked about Torres being replaced, and he said it was tactical. He's okay.
Yeah.
Joaquin Torres is good. He's healthy. So so that's it.
And from the players' availability, anything came up?
No, I think I said most of the things. Just one thing that I find really really nice. Joel Waterman said that his family came from. To watch him the 3 games, and he's like, my mother already came in the past, but it was the first time for my father, and he's like, at least they were able to watch me for 3 games, and he seemed very happy to have his family around. And you know what? It's always nice nice to hear, and nice
Yeah.
to see. We kind of forget that those players are human beings, right? We, when you watch them on TV and you're like, this guy, he's not
Do
good, and
this,
you
yeah.
start complaining and everything. This guy has a life too, right? He's a human being. He has the same worries and the same feelings that anybody else, right? So that's it.
Yeah, so Montreal's next game will be June 18th at Stade Saputo for Austin FC coming in. We'll move on, guys, to the Forge game. Alex, I wanted to hear you. Did you have Montreal as potential winners this year?
Yeah, I think I had Montreal as in my predictions. I had Montreal winning it all. I think just looking at the way the bracket was and how things were going to line up, they had Forge first. Either way, if it was them or Outremont, I had confidence they'd take care of the job at home. And I mean, the fact I wasn't expecting 3-0 with a rotated team, but I mean, it was impressive. Now I think away to Toronto, that's going to be tough. But I think based on how Toronto has been, especially defensively, Montreal will score goals. And I think, defensively we'll see, but I think they'll score enough goals. And then the final Whitecaps or York right now. I mean, even if it was going to be Cavalry or Pacific, I still had confidence in Montreal in all those games. They just seemed to find a way, especially in this Canadian Championship. So it was good to see them get the result that they did. I mean, they have the best team on paper. They have the deepest team on paper, and they're good in this competition. Right now, it's looking like it's them or the Whitecaps based on how the performances have gone. And in that battle right now, I'd back Montreal over the Whitecaps. They've looked more efficient, more ruthless, more – they just look like a team that's ready to win this trophy again.
Yeah, and you said very important, we're a deepest squad, and I wanted to hear you guys. We want a full game review on what happened, but I wanted to hear you guys particularly on some players that we see a bit less. I'll shoot it right back to you, Alex. What did you think of Torkelson for a start?
He was an interesting one because I thought he was always more of a wing back, so I was a bit surprised to see him as a center back role. One thing
I was relieved.
It was interesting because defensively he didn't have that much to do. Forge just really didn't look like themselves until the 70th, 80th minute. And that point, it's kind of like it's a bit of a wash. It's just okay, get the game over the line and worry about Saturday, which was Montreal's mindset. So I defensively, we didn't really get to see Thorkelson. One thing I found in possession very interesting is that he looked so uncomfortable in the sense that he would refuse to look up the line at Bassong. And it was funny because I was watching the game and in my head I was like, every time he got the ball, I'm like, pass it up the line. He'd always pass it back to Waterman. And the one time he passed it to Bassong, it nearly led to a goal. And I was like, I don't know why he had this refusal to open up his body. I don't know if it was kind of him not being used to the position, him being a little uncomfortable. So I thought he looked okay, but there's kind of little things in his game where it's like, okay, you can tell he needs to adjust and really be more comfortable because you can see the talent, but it was just little things like not, opening up his body and playing it up the line that would just kind of be like, oh, why is he doing that?
Yeah, and he's not gotten a lot of minutes this season, so...
No, but it's maybe a reflex from a player who's usually playing in an outside role. It's the player's always in front of you if your back is down the line. So maybe it's that tactical adjustment that forced him to play a bit uncomfortable. But I liked his game, guys. What did you think of it?
I think he was okay. It's his natural position, center back. It's his natural position. That's why he usually plays. I think that it's interesting what Alex said. I think it's just lack of confidence because he hasn't played much in the last couple of years, right? So I think it's maybe he was trying to be cautious more than anything because maybe he's not used to play anymore. It's maybe as simple as that. But yeah, it is his natural position. Yes, he played a bit more a wing back position, with Montreal. But it's his natural position usually at center back. So I don't know, but I found him interesting. He was very cautious, yes, but at the end of the day, we didn't need more of him. Like Montreal didn't need more of him. We needed someone that was very cautious, and I think his counterpart, Gabriel Corbo on the other side, did exactly almost the same game. Yeah. So I don't know. What do you think, Alex? Do you think that Corbo had exactly the same game, or he was a bit more interesting in your opinion?
I mean, I thought it was similar. I just, if anything, the guy who had the fun game was Waterman, which was cool to see because he was. They had
Yo,
they had him in the middle, and he was having so much fun. Like every
that's
time he got the
my
ball,
jam.
like he was playing long passes. I thought that was kind of fun that he was playing that sort of role. And so I guess maybe that was the plan, like with Corbo and Thorkelson, just get it to Waterman and let him have fun. I just thought it was interesting that, like, at a certain point, like there was some moments where like Basong was wide open for Thorkelson, and I guess on the other side, ZBG Brogier was wide open. It was like get him the ball and at least let him, let them run free because they look so overexcited. But maybe that was just the tactic to kind of dominate Forge through the middle, which I suppose worked.
Yeah. No,
Guys, I wanted to hear you. Go ahead.
I'm so sorry. I just wanted to make again my case for Joel Waterman in the middle of a back three.
Yeah.
I love it. I live for it. Stephen Vittoria, watch your back. Neil Henry, watch your back. It's my favorite. It's my favorite position for Joel Waterman to play, actually.
And when you think about it, it must be very interesting for John Herdman. He has a player that can play in the middle and on the right.
The two positions he needs the most on the back.
Exactly.
Hint, nudge, nudge.
Guys, I wanted to hear you on Matko Miljevic because we heard Olivier Renard say a few times that he thought about Miljevic being eventually the replacement for Georgie. Now people didn't laugh at it, but were very skeptical when he said that. Did that game get the skepticism down a bit?
I'm going to need to see more versus MLS competition before I am willing to endorse that recommendation from Wilfried Nancy. It was definitely a really fantastic showing for Miljevic against Forge. And it was great to see him dominate because, one of his very first game that he played for Montreal was versus HFX Wanderers last year. And, that wasn't an easy game for the Montreal squad. Of course, they were on the road, which means the circumstances were a little different, but it was a lot of the same players. And, they struggled and they had to bring in quote unquote starters to get the job done. Whereas this year, Miljevic really ran the show from that 10 spot. So I think it proves that he's developing, absolutely, but I don't think it's going to be tomorrow that he benches Georgie.
It's going to take time. It's funny because Wilfried Nancy was asked about his performance at the presser, and I loved his answer. This guy is like really transparent, right? He's always showing, saying the truth as much as he can. And, journalists were really like amazed by Matko Miljevic. And you know what? Yeah, of course, he gave 3 assists, right? It's normal to be, very, very enthusiastic about a player performance when he gives 3 assists. But Nasi said 2 things. The first thing he said, he's like, you know what? Yeah, he had a very interesting game, but we're gonna show him on the video. He has a lot of work to do in the timing of his passes and in his positioning. That's the first thing that he said. And maybe 2-3 minutes after, he said again something else. He's like, you know what? I had a big discussion with Matko Miljevic. He told me we didn't ask that much of him defensively in Argentina than what we're asking from him here. So he's not used to play this kind of way, right? And then he's like, sometimes he slows the tempo a bit too much, and where he knows that he can go a lot faster, and he doesn't read the play that well. That's what he said. And it's funny because he talked that way about a player that gave 3 assists in the game. It was fun.
That's interesting because for me watching Matko Miljevic play, the impression I kind of got is almost he plays like 100 miles an hour. Like he almost doesn't slow down to think. He looks like he's just like, he took some sort of like energy drink before the game and he's just going. Like he gets the ball, it's like no break. It's just driving. And I think that worked well against Forge because he got a lot of time on the ball. Especially they were winning back the ball so much that even if he made a mistake, he got it back right away. And I think if he wants to be Georgi Mihailovic, the one thing I noticed really about Georgie is that he slows down the game so well. Like he knows when to slow down the game. Like when he kind of, and that's kind of the key to being a good number 10. It's like you kind of let the game play to your tempo. And with Mihailovic, when he's at his best, he slows things down. He gets defenders to step up, and then he kind of plays these passes in behind him and whatnot. Whereas Matko, the way he was playing, he makes a great winger in the sense that, you know, you love to see wingers who drive at guys who are consistently playing at 100 miles an hour. But I think if he wants to be like, you know, Mihailovic, which I think he has the qualities. I mean, we saw some of the passes, the delivery. It's going to be finding out how to not necessarily slow down the game, but it's kind of like knowing when to pick your spots, because that's what keeps the defenders guessing. It's like, is he going to slow the game down? Is he going to speed things up? Whereas with Matko, I just find he's always playing 100%, and that won't work against some MLS teams. They'll find a way to stop that. Whereas someone like Mihailovic, when he's at his best, he's so unpredictable. You don't know if he's going to slow down or start sprinting or kind of control the tempo in that way. Whereas Matko is kind of just letting the tempo of the game kind of drive him.
Yeah, definitely. Guys, I wanted to just hear you quickly on Sunusi's game, because it was a really impressive one. Did anything impress you, like, particularly, or that's something we can expect from him going forward?
I mean, he has had minutes in MLS this season, and it's been kind of hit and miss for him. And obviously, he's worked his way back from a really serious illness in the off-season, in early season. So, you know, part of it, I think, is probably finding his fitness. And I think this game, to be honest, I was a little, and I guess the circumstances of the match probably didn't allow for it, but I would have really liked to see him get a few minutes if circumstances had allowed in the match on Saturday versus Cincy, because it was a really, really good performance from him, and he did miss an early chance as well, but still kept his composure and was able to score 3 goals on the night. And if I'm not mistaken, it was actually a perfect hat trick. So even better.
Yeah. I'm happy that he's scoring goals, because that was his biggest concern with Sanusi. He wasn't that good. Yeah, we lost Alex, it seems.
Okay. But not everybody has good internet. I can speak for myself.
Welcome back. You're on mute.
There we go. Hope I had some weird audio issue there. My audio just completely cut out while you were.
You're good.
No worries, man.
We hear you loud and clear. Yeah.
Perfect.
Don't worry. Yeah. So So for me, I was happy that Sanusi scored, and you know, last year we've seen Sanusi get some sitters and not scoring. You know, scoring 3 goals, you know, is very good for his you know, the mental aspect and for his confidence. Exactly. So. No, I'm happy. I'm happy that he scored. Hopefully, we're going to see a bit more of him in MLS also, and because we're going to need him at one point.
Guys, we've had a few questions for Alex. Really interesting ones. So hit us up.
Yeah.
So Chan says, "Hi Alex, any update about FC Edmonton new ownership?"
Awesome. I mean, to start, I unfortunately do not have any updates on the FC Edmonton ownership situation. I know there's continues to be talks. There was talks in the off season. Talks are continuing to be underway, because obviously the league wants a team in Edmonton. It's a great, you know, it's a historical market, but there's a huge hurdles there in terms of getting fans out to games and et cetera. But hopefully soon, because there's always been some interesting names thrown about. As some heard, I mean, the Oilers, even hear Alphonso Davies, et cetera. But in terms of new stuff now, I don't hear anything concrete other than what we heard in the off season.
And there's another question for you from Chan again. It's a couple of questions. So another question for you. So Sirois ready next season for Impact or for CF Montreal, or you prefer Breza? We have our take already on that, so I think Chan knows. Yeah. But we're curious to hear your thoughts, Alex.
Well, it's funny because I got to watch Sirois in person. You know, I guess it would have been yesterday, and he looked pretty good. I mean, if you saw the goals in that Pacific Valor game, like one was an absolute thunderous goal from 35 yards out from Gianni Dos Santos, sorry, and then the other goal. You know, it was a bit of not much Sirois could do, but I think Sirois, what I notice about him is he's very, for his young age, he controls the box very well. Like, for example, yesterday, Pacific's one of the best teams in the league
Yeah.
in the air. They have Amir Didic, Thomas Mergigur. They have all these guys who can hurt you in the box. And every time, Sirois got a hand on the cross on the corners. It was ridiculous. I've never seen anything like it. Like, every cross, deep, high, he was out there just slapping the ball away. So, like, the way he reads the game and organizes his box and organizes his line, he's got that in him. It's just growing his skills. So I think with Breza, the thing I noticed with Breza, I love the physical skills with Breza. Like, he's big, he makes great saves. Like, you can tell he's got a goalkeeper body, but he just doesn't organize his box. He doesn't organize his team. He makes a lot of routine errors in that sense, where it's frustrating because Breza, you see a good goalie, but he doesn't necessarily. He has the goalkeeping, but he doesn't necessarily have all the others the passing as well. Whereas Sirois, he might not be as big. He doesn't. Sometimes there's some shots because he's a little smaller that he just doesn't get to. But it's all the mental stuff that clicks. Like, for example, he saved 3 penalties this year out of 3. He hasn't been scored on. That's mental. That's the mental side of the game. That's reading shot stoppers, and that's the thing what I really like with Sirois. So I think long term, Sirois is going to be in a great position because with Breza, if he figures it out overnight, he's going to be super good because big goalies like him who figure that out will be great. But also, will he figure that out? Who knows? Whereas Sirois has that, and because of that, if I were going to pick today, I'd pick Sirois.
Yeah, I'm going. We said that I am. Yeah. I said I don't remember what you guys said, but for me, Sirois is CF Montreal goalkeeper next year.
I think I started that song.
Okay, good, Eve. Okay, Eve started that song. I'll give you that.
Hady started singing it later.
Yeah, it's open battle. If Breza somehow is back at camp next year, I think it's a fair shot to all 3 of them because I still believe in Pantemis, but Soa has been showing some really interesting stuff in CPL. So it's another interesting headache that Wilfred Nancy will have is that you'll have like three Canadian goalkeepers that are excellent. So I mean, it's can't wait to see. Guys, talking about Canada, we'll move on to the men's national team because John Herdman dropped his list for June. Hady, can you shoot it on the screen? There you go. So Adekugbe, Borjan, Brim, Buchanan, Cavallini, Crepeau, Davies, Raheem Edwards, Estacio, Henry, Oilett, Hutchinson, Johnston, Kay, Kennedy, Coleocho, Larin, Larea, Miller, Osorio, Piet, Sinclair, Ugbo, and Vitoria. There's a few very interesting selections here, guys. Brim is back. Edwards rewarded for his stellar season, and a first call-up for Luca Coleocho. Alex, I want to hear you. We talked about the exclusion of Waterman, but any noteworthy inclusions or exclusions for you?
I mean, I guess we can start with the inclusions. I mean, I think Brim, bit of a surprise, but I think it's it's a good one. I think he had a 9-goal season in the Dutch second division. His team missed out on promotion by like 3 points in the league, and then they lost in the second round out of 3 in the playoffs. So just really unfortunate. But I think him playing as a right winger, even if it didn't end this year, I'd be very curious. Maybe another, a team in a top league saw what he did and offers him to bring him in on a transfer. So I think it's fair to give Brim a look, given how he's familiar with John Herdman's system, etc. So it was a surprise, but it was good to see. Raheem Edwards, I think it's about time. He's been just super solid with LA Galaxy. How offensive he is, but he's grown a lot defensively. His stats all looked good. Watching him, he's fun. He looks comfortable in this new position. I think just with how inconsistent Christian Gutierrez's minutes had been at the club level, it made sense to replace him. The real big surprise was Coleocho. I mean, it's a great one in the sense that he's going to be great in a couple years to come. Made his La Liga debut a week ago. Obviously, a lot of people talking about that. He's an American Italian trio national, I guess is the word there, not a dual national. So it was exciting to see his name. I think it's one where it's like, okay, is he going to come in and be the savior? No, he's a 17-year-old kid who's barely made his professional debut. But I mean, it's always cool to see these sorts of trio nationals, dual nationals, if you can get them in, just because it kind of sends a message to other teams that people want to play for Canada. They want to represent at Canada. And what I'm hoping is that hopefully this was kind of a sign from John Herdman. I mean, we'll obviously learn more about this in the coming week. My kind of, my thought, this is just, my speculation. This is nothing to do. I don't know if it's true or not, but since he's in the long list for Canada's U20 World Cup qualifying squad, and he could obviously also pick the US, I think what I feel is that Canada probably went, hey, join us for that camp. We'll give you a taste of the senior camp if you do. So maybe he'll play with the seniors or get a look with the seniors and then go down and join the team as part of that. I don't know if that's true, but that's what I hope, because I think it would be good to have him long-term starting with that U20 World Cup qualifiers. But those are my inclusions. Exclusions, I mean, Waterman was the big one for me. He was the one I was kind of tooting the horn of. And then other than that, the one who I'd say is Stefan Mitrovic, but sounds like there's something a little more complicated going on there. Yeah. So it just seems like with him in Serbia and then the dad and the new club situations, obviously some external factors played into that one, which is unfortunate because I think Mitrovic would add a very unique profile to Canada's pool, because you look at their team, they're deep up front. They just need some center backs and some attacking midfielders. That would have been for me Mitrovic and Waterman, but maybe we'll see them in the future, hopefully.
It's weird, I understand, the inclusion of what's his name, Brim, but like we don't have any other players that don't play in the second division in the Dutch league. Like I don't know, like we do have like Kerbianu. I don't know. Yeah. I know that he's not doing very well right now, but at least he knows, the team, the roster. Yeah, no, but that's why.
No, I know.
Any news on Kadioglu that is Canadian? Do you have any news about him maybe joining the squad or not really?
No, I think he's done. I mean, I guess I'd have to check, but it sounded like in March he committed to Turkey. Like he put out a whole statement. So unfortunately, I think the dream died with that one. And I mean,
he hasn't been
that's the thing with
yet,
Canada. Right? Because Liam Miller's injured, so they needed a replacement. Personally, I would have loved to see Richie Ennen, playing in Russia. Russia's top flight. The only thing I wonder is maybe it was politically tough to get him out of the country. Maybe they want to call him up, and they just, with the situation there, maybe they weren't able to secure a visa or something like that to have him come travel. So I don't know, but I mean, I'll try to ask if I get a chance to ask Herman. There's so many for us to ask about. We'll have to, maybe I'll just try to. Maybe while he... Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I even thought like Derek Cornelius might have a shout, because I thought he enjoyed a good season when I was able to catch some bits and pieces.
Oh, man, if Cornelius is called up and not Waterman, that's that we have a problem somewhere.
No, but I mean, he was playing with, Pentatokolios. I'm so sorry I mispronounced the bejesus out of that. But, he's playing in the Greek division, which is, it's not something to sneeze at. It's better than second division Dutch.
Nah.
But, I mean, listen to us. Like, we're kind of carrying on a little bit like snobs here. When Canada used to have unattached FCs, like, coming out the yin-yang in its roster. So, a part of me is still, I think, going through that imposter syndrome. Like, be happy with what we've got. Oh, my gosh, it's a miracle.
Yeah, and you talked about Alex. Sorry, I want to just one last question about that, guys. I know we have a very long program, but Richie Ennen. You talked about Richie Ennen, but like, he's now what, 23 now. It's about time that he gets a call up, and there's someone else also that why don't we call someone like Tyler Pasher that's been around the team also, I don't know. I find that inclusion of Brim, and nothing against him, but I find the inclusion of Brim to be a bit odd.
Well, I guess it's something interesting that I certainly would love to hear John Herdman's thoughts on. Because the thing is with some players, it's like a question we have eternally. With like Yuzu Stakio, for example. He plays at Porto now. It's a big club, but he doesn't play as much. Before, he was playing at Pacos, smaller club, but he was playing a lot. Do you want your players to be at bigger clubs just because they're at bigger clubs? Or is it better to be in a lower division? And I do wonder with Brim, because yes, it was playing a lower level, but he was so good in that lower level where he scored 9 goals. I think if you look at all of Canada's players in the pool, like it would have been the only guys I can think of that would have had more than him off the top of my head were David, and Miller. I don't even think
Mm-hmm.
Larin had more than him. He only had 7 goals this year.
You're
Obviously, very
right.
different leagues, very different level. So maybe for Herdman, it was just a matter of form.
Hmm.
Playing in that. Maybe he wasn't in a good of a league, but he was playing well enough to kind of overcome that. I mean, it's such a good debate to have, because what do you do with guys like, say, Richie Laret now? He's going to be on a Premier League team next year. Who knows if he'll
Mm-hmm.
stick around or if he'll go on loan? But if he's on a Premier League team and isn't playing, does that mean he's, what does that mean for his future? And I think it's something that you have to debate as a manager, of kind of finding that balance between guys you like, guys who are good, guys who are playing at good clubs. It's a hard balance to strike.
Yeah, I guess I wanted to ask you: is the goalkeeper situation pretty much set in stone for Qatar?
Um, I think so. I
Yeah,
mean,
I
I
feel like it
that's
too. Yeah.
yeah. I think the squad is it's obviously a super tight squad, to super close. You feel like they would legitimately die for each other and die for their coach on the pitch. So I think yeah, for sure, 100%, barring injuries and stuff like that, of course.
Yeah, I think looking at the last run, it was Borjan's to lose. I think Borjan's
Mm-hmm.
starting in Qatar. That's not a secret, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of Crepo as the backup.
Yeah.
The only thing that would really heading into this year was no one knew who the third goalie was, because I mean, at the end of last year was Pantemis.
Hmm.
Obviously, that has changed in a big way. It was
Mm-hmm.
kind of just like you looked at Pantemis, Breza, Hasal, St. Clair. It was like one of you guys, whoever does the best, and you
Yeah.
run with it. And it ended up being St. Clair. And I
Hmm.
mean, credit to St. Clair. He's been so good that
Mm-hmm.
when Borjan's done, like next year, you're going to start wondering, could it be St. Clair over Crepeau? Because St.
Yeah.
Clair's been that good. But other than that, I think it's been pretty much set in stone, in the sense that it's been those two. Now it's those three. It's just kind of, where do you put St. Clair versus Crepeau? But I think long term, right now, as of Qatar, it's going to be Borjan, Crepeau, St. Clair. But 2023, it could very well be St. Clair, Crepeau, Borjan, or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, same feeling as I have. Guys, we have to talk about the game that was canceled against Iran. So on the 5th of June, we had.
Sorry, Sam. Sorry, Sam. Just before, because like we didn't talk about the elephant in the room. Who the hell is Luca Coleosho? I had no
We just
idea who he was.
just talked about him like
Yeah,
5 minutes
but
ago.
I know, but like, I just what? Like, where does he name? Like, I don't know. It's very weird, very weird to have him included. But do you think it's maybe because he wanted to cap tie him?
But
That's all.
Yeah, that's my
well,
feeling,
I
definitely.
Yeah.
I kind of
Yeah.
liked Alex's theory where this might be kind of they're playing a little bit of a bigger game, and like you said, Alex, I know you don't have any insider info. It's kind of just a theory from your perspective, but maybe giving him this in is gonna also help Canada's U20 chances. So I like that theory as well, and it's always important. I think, especially I think this team values chemistry a lot. And
Yeah.
so I think it's important to kind of give players a peek in and get a sense of what that locker room is like, because I get the impression it's got to be like a really intense place.
Yeah, but if he comes, to the squad and doesn't play a minute, I don't know. It's a bit weird. So hopefully he'll get some playing time, because if you want to
Well,
captain him, you're gonna have to
he
play him
probably
a
would
bit.
have gotten playing time if there had been a friendly.
Yeah, so that's a problem. So that
Nice
window
segue.
went down.
I know.
That window went down to 2 games because the Iran game was canceled. I want to hear you guys. You know, on Thursday morning, Canada sent out a tweet without explanation, only saying that the friendly was canceled. And eventually, almost 8 hours later, Canada Soccer put out a formal statement. We have it on our screen in a minute.
Yeah.
What it says is Canada Soccer has been intentions and striving to ensure that the men's national team gains important experience against FIFA World Cup teams in preparation for Qatar 2022. Over the past week, the untenable geopolitical situation of hosting Iran became significantly divisive, and in response, the match was cancelled. Why? We considered the external factors in selecting the optimal opponent in our original decision-making process. We strive to do better moving forward. Canada Soccer will be conducting a thorough review of the process of the hosting of international matches to ensure no stones is left unturned in our pursuit of excellence both on and off the pitch, including consultation with all stakeholders. We are committed to creating respectful and inclusive environments for teams, players, and fans. We're working diligently to find an alternative opponent, and all ticket purchasers have been notified that the event has been cancelled and that refund is on the way. It was a very vague statement by Soccer Canada, but what should we understand of all this mess? Because that's what happened to be in the end.
It does not make the Canada Soccer yeah, it does not make the Canada Soccer Association look good. Not one little bit. Like, this is on the eve of 2026 hosting selection. I don't even know where to start. It's just such a... I'm sorry. I don't even... like. Let me compose myself. Somebody else take it for a second.
Yeah, I mean, it's such an interesting, I guess, situation, because you look at the idea that it's a friendly match, so you're inviting them in to play, and then it's just the whole circumstances with Canada's relation with Iran, and I guess it's kind of a reminder to Canada of, like, how important politics are in sports, especially in this country, whether whether you agree with it or not. I think sports and politics are very linked, and just given the situation, I think with Canada, it was while on a sporting sense, it made a lot of sense to bring in an opponent like Iran, given the political situation and then the kind of uproar and division that it caused. It just didn't make sense for them to play the game. I mean, it sounded like there were going to be really protests, people running on the field, et cetera, like that. It became a question of safety. But I think really from Canada's perspective, that they didn't consider all of that before hosting the game and had to cancel it last minute, because I mean, I guess they could have stuck through with it as well and kind of stuck through, but the fact that they canceled it shows the lack of foresight, and I think that's kind of been a common theme with them in the past year, where there's a lot of goodwill, and then they just they make decisions kind of like last minute, and then it kind of comes back to bite them, and they're not really thinking ahead and being prepared for the consequences of what's going to happen. And I think that has to be done. I think especially if you're an organization as big as Canada Soccer is becoming, in terms of people paying attention. I know internally maybe it doesn't reflect that. They're still trying to make up for the fact that they shot up from, like, the men's team shot up from being 100th in the world to 30th in the world, and maybe they're still kind of run a bit like a team that's 100th in the world. They haven't really caught up, so I think that's part of the reason why things like this still happen. But I think it was a good lesson to show that as they grow, the consequences, that what you have to consider, and things, that factors that you might not have thought of before.
It just, like, for me, I'm like, I can't get over it that you can schedule friendlies without being able to read the room, in the sense of being that it's your room basically you're inviting them into. I think my biggest concern comes mainly from the fact that, FIFA probably isn't going to look kindly on Canada Soccer for this, particularly given that in the statement released by Canada Soccer, they specifically said it was related to the geopolitical situation. And so, I mean, there is a potential that FIFA could come down on Canada and fine them heavily, and the Iranian Federation may be seeking damages as well. So, this isn't financial burden that Canada Soccer needs to undertake. I mean, they've got a huge World Cup coming up. They're trying to get a women's league off the ground, and it just kind of feels like they shot themselves in the foot with this. And it's kind of very much 2 steps forward, 1 step back with this organization. And I think maybe a lot of the kind of the golden aura that was around them in the aftermath of the qualification, I think that's faded really quickly, seeing the mess that this scheduling has become, and the controversy that it's generated.
Hady.
Yeah, everything was said. I think there's nothing more that I can add. The only rumors that I've seen so far is like the $10 million dollars that are demanded by the Iranian
Yeah, I saw that.
Federation. It's rumors. I
Yeah.
don't think that it's going to be that expensive. I think 10 million
No.
is a bit too much. But yeah, if you think about it, I'm pretty sure that Canada is going to be fined. I'd be very surprised if they're not.
Yeah.
100%. It's not going to be anywhere near 10 million in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a million. Yeah, maybe 10 million. It's kind
Right.
of like no,
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
normal,
But
so.
I mean, it's not that long ago. John Herdman was out asking people for money for the Canada
know.
Soccer Federation. So like, come
it's
on.
not this. It's not the same now, right?
No.
Canada has moved forward. We do receive, from time to time, emails saying, Canada has signed up a partnership with
Yeah.
the new. I think in the past few months, correct me if I'm wrong, Alex, I think we received maybe 5 or 6 emails from new partnerships with Canada Soccer. So I think things are going well or better than it was before when John Herdman had to really knock on doors to get money. We're far from that now.
Yeah. Oh my God, this is a hoot. I'm sorry. This is just a hoot of a comment. That went from Woodstock to Altamont on Canada Soccer from supporters' point of view from MJR. Oh, that's funny.
Nice.
That's my kind of humor. Good call. I like the comparison.
Guys, is it too late for any alternative options for a friendly for Canada on that date?
I mean,
they're gonna have to get creative because it's just looking at the schedules. It's just not many of the schedules line up because.
No. What are the Cayman Islands up to?
Yeah, at that point you may as well you're better off. But
yeah,
because right now CONCACAF has their Nations League, and that rules out a lot of the top teams from a certain date, and they're already kind of locked up. Your UEFA teams are playing Nations League, so that kind of takes a lot of them out the picture. And a few of them, like Ukraine and Scotland and Wales, are playing the World Cup qualifiers, so that also rules them out. And then a lot of the African and Asian teams, it's super last minute. And African teams have AFCON qualifiers.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really just been Asian and South American teams, which is why Iran was picked and why we're seeing, U.S. Uruguay, U.S., stuff like that, U.S. Morocco this week. So I think they're either going to have to find out something that works with one of the teams already traveling to North America, like, say in Ecuador.
I saw, yeah.
But even their schedule might not line up, so they might have to move some dates if they're going to make it work. So it's either that or they might just have to get creative. Like, honestly, something, for example, is you're in Vancouver, hit up the Whitecaps. Get, the Whitecaps do have a decent team. Like, you get a team of Ryan Gauld, Kyle Alexandre, Eric Godoy, etc. The guys that the Whitecaps have, it's not, it's not Iran, it's not Ecuador, it's not any of the potential teams we talked about, Argentina, etc., etc. It's still an opponent, and it's still a high-level opponent. Heck, maybe you offer some money around. Montreal and Toronto wouldn't make sense because they're already on vacation, but the Whitecaps play on June 4th, so they have to stay around for that extra week. You offer them a bit of money, say, hey, we play you, it's beneficial for both of us. That could be sort of options you look at because it's not unprecedented. I mean, remember last year, like DC United played the El Salvador national team in DC, I'm pretty sure. And some other games like that happen all the time. So you're going to have to get creative. If not the one I want to see happen, although it's going to be physically impossible, is give me the CPL All-Star team against Canada, just because that would be, even though Canada would probably win that game pretty, it's a top team. I think it would still be fun to give a chance to some of those CPL players to play on such a platform and make the most of the situation and have some fun with it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, then the idea about the CanPL All-Star team, that could be interesting too.
It would be like a lot to pull off though, because admittedly it is mostly Pacific players this year.
Yeah, true. But you'll have a few Forge players too, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think Bobby Smirniotis will be happy to add extra work for his players.
Guys, that's pretty much it for the men national team. We'll just jump in quickly it's a quick rapid fire Canada news we have.
That's what happens when Europe wraps up.
Yeah, so let's put the team up.
Eve's favorite team.
And you know what's funny is somebody from Cincinnati yesterday was like, "Your national anthem is just the best," and I was like, it makes me sleepy, but okay, sure.
So Sarah Startigakis scored in a 3-0 win over Vitjo GIK. Richie Larea will be a Premier League player next year as Nottingham Forest has won the promotion and the playoff final against Huddersfield. And Kadisha Buchanan played the full 90 minutes as OL clinched the D1 Arkema title over PSG. So we're done with part one, guys. Let's move on to part two and social media.
Yeah, let's move on to social media with another theme.
Mm-hmm. Away I go. So I got us kicked right off here. So first up we have Patrick P-Dubs13. So anyone who has not watched the clip of Sean Reyes' goal yesterday. Yes.
Goodness.
Oh yeah. Oh, you.
I was
you
in the stadium and my jaw
hit.
hit the floor.
Oh
It
My
was
jaw hit the floor when
insane.
it happened.
So
It was absurd.
it was phenomenal. Please go watch it. Did we retweet that from our
Yeah, I
Twitter
did.
account?
It was
Yeah.
I retweeted off Patrice Bernier's account, so you'll see
Perfect.
it on our Twitter.
Excellent. Yeah. So Pat asks, is this kid gonna be a star? I don't know much about the kids, but I heard a couple of times that he's the best talent to come out of the academy since Baloo. I also don't like comparing players. ... So anyway, that goal yesterday was just so audacious, so confident. Sean Reyes had a pretty strong start to his season. I know we talked a lot about Joe Sirois, but Sean Reyes, his season hasn't been much to sneeze at this year either. He's scored a couple of goals already, and he has notched some interesting assists, and it was a great individual effort for my standpoint. And it was great vision for him to see the keeper way off his line and score, chip him from even kind of beside the field. So yeah,
I think it's his talent has never been denied by anyone. But you know that the interesting part in Patrick's comment is the best talent coming out of the academy since Baloo. You know, guys, I remember Baloo's first game. It was that friendly at Satsapuro against Roma.
Roma, yeah.
Man, I thought we had found like an absolute gem. You know, so. You have to be patient with these players and make sure that you give them the time to adapt. Exactly what Rhea is doing in the CanPL and bringing up slowly in Montreal and not put all these tags on him and just it's a process. And I think Rhea has the talent now. It's going to be to see how the club will make sure that he doesn't become, unfortunately, another Baloo. So
Yeah, it's funny because before. The problem that we had with Sean Rhea is that he used to disappear in games in sequences within the game, and he had a few flashes, but it seemed like he improved a lot last year. And this year he's showing his growth. He's showing his worth by putting in some good performances. I'm not watching a lot of CanPL as I used to in the past, but it looks like he's growing. And it's very interesting for CF Montreal next year. I know that Alex watches a lot of CPL. So do you think that Sean Rhea has grown enough to be an MLS player next year?
I'm very high on Sean Rhea. I've really enjoyed watching him play. The kind of way I just like those kind of creative midfielders, the way he operates. It was interesting because someone actually yesterday asked Phil DeSantos, who is Sean Rhea's manager, what he thought of Sean Rhea's future and what he can do. And one thing that Phil DeSantos said was interesting, that is that Sean Rhea has really gotten good at the defensive side of the game and working hard and understanding how to be engaged, how to be a professional. And I think this is part of the reason why the CanPL is so key for these players like Rhea, who when he's playing with the academy, he's one of the better players among his peers. You dominate, but that isn't necessarily good for you in the sense that you build bad habits, you start to do things. I think Baloo Tabla that happened to him a sense where he was always kind of the best player of them all, and you all of a sudden you hit adversity and it really hits you like a truck. Whereas Sean Rhea is so young, you send him to the CPL and he's kind of learning those moments a bit away from the spotlight on his own. He's putting in the hours every week on the training pitch, and I think it's paying off because for me, we talked about Matt Komilvich being the Georgi Mihailovic replacement earlier. In terms of the style, Sean Rea is a lot closer to Georgi Mihailovic than Matt Komilvich is.
Yeah.
He slows down the game well. He plays that role. He just needs to figure out how to get his motor running all the time, like Mihailovic did. So I think it's very interesting to see how Montreal's sent him out on loan, and he's had the chance to learn and get these reps away from the spotlight. So I think 100% he can really, especially if Mihailovic leaves next year, you kind of give Rea a chance there. Maybe him and Miljevic kind of split the role and they kind of fight for that spot. I think that could be a good way to get the most out of him, because I don't know if I could say he'll be the best talent, because there's a lot of talented names coming out of that Montreal academy, but he certainly can be a very good MLS player if he continues the trajectory he's on.
Lovely. All right, next up we have Ryan Burns. So this is touching on obviously the Champions League final yesterday. He says it's crazy to think that Liverpool were 2 penalty kicks away from winning nothing this season, but also 2 goals away from winning everything this season. The margins are fine at the top. Yeah, honestly, I hadn't thought about it until I read that tweet, and I was like, wow.
Yeah. Wow.
Sometimes 1 goal really does make all the difference, doesn't it?
Yeah, and afterwards you'll have narratives of people saying, it's a disappointing season. They should have done this, should have done that, but they were so close. So you see at that level, it's everything's like knife on a knife edge, really.
I mean, EPL went down to the final day of the season this year for the first time in a while, really, as far as both champions and relegations go. And several other leagues were like that this year as well. So it was really, really fascinating. But yeah, anyway, I just like that tweet because I thought it was a good observation. Next up we have Johnny Zaffron. So obviously I know we all talked about this, but Johnny says inching closer and closer to Canada men's national team. Keep it up, Joel. So hopefully if Joel's feeling a little bit bitter, at least he knows he's got lots of support on the internet, cheering him on. Lots of Montreal supporters are definitely pro Waterman to Canada. So
for sure.
Yes. Johnny is of a like mind with us. Next up, we have also kind of, I guess, on the theme of a little bit on the theme of the national team, a little bit on the theme of the Champions League final. I don't know if any of you guys watched it or not. I did on an iPad at a tailgate. So Kiwa's qualified for 2022 says, forget De Bruyne, forget Hazard, forget Lukaku. This is the goalkeeper, Thibaut Courtois, that Canada will face against Belgium in Qatar. He stood on his head yesterday, Courtois. Like, he made some outrageous saves, truly, for Real Madrid. It was ridiculous. And he was like, he was such an... Yeah.
Yeah, he's one of the best keepers on the planet. So
yeah,
so it's as simple as that. If he's not the best keeper on the planet, I'm curious to have Mohamed's opinion of Thibaut Courtois. Remember Mohamed, Alex, who Mohamed, he writes on goalkeepers. He's the next goalkeeper, and he writes.
Because that's the thing with Courtois. Like, he's huge, but it's like the way he plays, he knows how to use his body. Like, some 6'7" goalies, they play like they're 6'2". No, Courtois plays like a 6'7" goalie. Like, he covers so much ground. He like sticks his arms out, and it's like there's just nowhere to shoot. So the good news I'll say for Canada is, while it was scary to watch Kevin De Bruyne and Courtois do what they did this year, the good news is, in normal year, you'd be worried about playing them in a month's time, because that's when the World Cup would normally start. So
we go.
Between now and November, it's a long time. So maybe this summer he drinks a little too much beer or something. His reflexes go drop a little bit by the time November comes around. But it's really, the only hope you can have, because if he's playing like this, man, it's going to be scary to see what Courtois and De Bruyne and all these guys are going to do against Canada, because they're a top team.
Yeah, for real. Seriously, and somewhere Eric Chenois is just like
Yeah, but he was so
Fully drooling.
skeptical. He was so
I
skeptical
know.
of Belgium's chances against Canada, and we were like,
I know.
really?
No, he
That's
said that that Belgium has trouble against teams like Canada.
That
Yeah,
it
Like the
should
way
be.
Canada play is scary for Belgium.
Hmm.
So
yeah.
I don't
The way
know.
Belgium
If they
plays
if
is scary
and
for
then
Canada too.
To everybody, I think.
Yeah, I got one last tweet for you guys.
Hit
And
it.
this one is from wsoccer.ca. And this one fascinated the living daylights out of me. It's a transfer rumor. So they have quoted the source where it came from, which is in Spanish. But according to a rumor, it looks like Tigres of course, Liga MX for feminine, are potentially interested in signing Ashley Lawrence, who isn't, following a rule change that the league will allow 4 internationals per team instead of the previous 2. Gotta love that Tigres is aiming high, but still seems out of their league. What do you guys think? Any remote hint of truth to this rumor?
The only reason why Ashley Lawrence will make the trip to go to Liga MX, the women Liga MX, I don't know what's the appropriate name of the league, but like the only way is just because she wants to be closer to her family in Canada. But like looking at you're talking about Division 1 in France. It's maybe one of the best championships in women's soccer. Playing in France, it's not. It's a very good
Well,
level,
that's the
right?
thing. The
So
Champions League final this year was 2 Ligue 1 teams against each other.
exactly, and PSG is a huge club. Even if I hate saying this and admitting this, it's still a huge club. So I don't know. Tigres has shown in the last few years that they're able to put the money. We've seen Gignac, we've seen Tauvin signing with Tigres on the men's side. So are they able to maybe give her a contract that she can't refuse? We'll see. But I'll be very, very, very surprised if that works.
well,
Yeah.
just a few for me, I guess. One thing, PSG, they have some issues with the women's side in particular. They for whatever reason, it's been a huge problem they have, which is it's super ironic, but they've been really cheap with the women's team. Which is just considering you see the money they just threw at Mbappe, for example, but they lost some really good players like Christiane Endler. They just let her go to Lyon, and she was the best goalkeeper in the world, and now she helped them Lyon win the Champions League again this year and won the cup. It sounds like they could lose Marie-Antoinette Katoto, who, for anyone who hasn't seen her play, she scores for fun, hat tricks almost every week, and Lawrence could be one of them to go. So I wouldn't be surprised if Lawrence leaves. First of all, so there is that, and then what I'll say about Liga MX is that they're such a fascinating league is because the way they've invested in their project, they've gone from 0 to 100 really quick. Like a few years ago, they were struggling, and now through some smart marketing, some smart signings, they're getting 30, 40, 50,000 fans each week to games. Like it's super huge, and they've been making some big moves. Like for example, one that I saw is that they poached one of the top potential NWSL draft picks to come play for Tigres in what was a huge move.
Oh my gosh, yes.
I forget
the
her
lone
name.
American.
Yeah, I think it was Fisher or something.
Maya Official. Mia, maybe it might be Mia.
Official, that's it. It was close to Fisher, but they poached her to Tigres off the NWSL, and that was kind of sent a message to be like, oh shoot, like Mexico is not messing around right now because they already have a lot of top Mexican players. As we've seen when Mexico played Canada, Mexico is rapidly improving. They all play there. But now they're trying to kind of get this international. So, I mean, I don't know if they have the means to get a Lawrence, but it would send a huge message to grab arguably the best fullback, one of the best fullbacks in the world, and start to add more players like that because I think that's what they're really trying to do. So I think personally, if Lawrence leaves, I'd personally see her more at a Barcelona, a Madrid, one of the top teams in England. I'm just based on what I'm seeing in Liga MX, this is the sort of thing they're looking to do. They've already built their strong domestic pool. They have the fans. Now they want some big international players to show they're really not here to mess around. So there is that worth considering.
Yeah, no, but hey, you can't fault the ambition of the league, right? They're valuing women's soccer appropriately, so that's what counts. With that being said, that wraps up social media for me, which means Hady, it is over to you for choices.
Yeah, it is over to me. Before we wrap things up, we have a small game with choices. So let's hear the bell ring and start with choices. So I have three choices for you guys. I think Alex, is it the first time that you play that game?
I don't know. I played it with Michael,
Play-
Michael McCall of
True.
AFTM.
Oh,
back
on
in the day
our
when we had
marathon
fun.
episode,
True.
yes.
That was a
Yeah.
legendary show.
Yeah. That was a great show. Great show at the beginning of the year. Okay, so let's start first. You're Olivier Renard. You have a choice to make. You can either re-sign Victor Wanyama for 3 years, same amount, same salary for 3 years, or you sign Marcelo, that's leaving Real Madrid, for 3 years. Exactly the same amount as a DP for 3 million. Which option do you choose? Let's start with Alex. He's our guest, so.
I take Wanyama. I shut the door. I don't ask any questions. I like Marcelo. He's always a great player, but if you're gonna play DPS, you need dominant players. You need players who play in the middle of the park. For me, it's Wanyama, hands down.
Eve?
I completely agree with Alex. I espouse his theory. Marcelo, no hate on him because he just won Champions League yesterday. But I don't know if at 37 that DP tag would be looking quite as appetizing as it might, the day after his Champions League trophy.
Man.
I think Victor
Eve,
Wanyama
man.
still has a lot of quality football in his boots.
Eve talks about 37. There's before the 37, there's 35 and 36, right? just FYI.
But for a DP, when you're limited, especially Montreal, Montreal's lucky if it has 2 DPs. You got to make sure you're getting ample bang for your buck out of your DPs.
That's your opinion, and
Yep. I understand.
No, Wanyama for sure. It's just Wanyama. I like Marcelo. He's a fantastic player. He has a magnificent career, but I think the game turns around Wanyama. He's became almost the focal point of that team and how we transition to get the ball forward. And like you said, DP has to be involved in the game a lot more than what Marcelo will be able to do on his left flank. So I think it's Wanyama 100% for me.
Wow. Okay, guys. You know what? I'm taking Marcelo, and I'm going to tell you why. It's very, very simple. It's so tough to find a left wing back nowadays. I think it's one of the positions that is the toughest to find after the striker, of course. It's so difficult to find someone that's really good offensively while keeping his defensive responsibilities. And what's nice about Montreal is that on the left hand side, you don't really need to be to be a god defensively. Because now you have Lassie Lapalainen playing that role. Now, Wanyama is very important. I completely agree with you guys. But you know what? With having now, players like Chouanière, like Piet, like Kone, like Hamdi, Georgie that can play, that can play that role
Zuhir.
also. You have Zuhir also. You have so many options that, yes, it will be a big loss to lose Wanyama, but I think that getting a player like Marcelo on the left hand side is very, very important. Now, of course, the age is the problem, but right now he's 34. I think he can give us two very good years. And then the last year, we'll try to renegotiate something or whatever. But I'll give him the 3 years right now. And I'll go with Marcelo, even if I wouldn't be unhappy if it's Wanyama that he chooses at all. But I think that Marcelo would be a good catch. And also on the marketing side, of course. Let's move on with the second one. Okay, it's a bit of a weird one. Okay. You guys are Gabriel Gervais, okay? And Canada Soccer knocks on your door and asks you to host a game at Stade Saputo.
Okay.
Okay, it's a friendly. The opponent is going to be Belize,
Okay.
but it will also happen on the 27th of September, which is the last international break before the World Cup.
Mm-hmm.
And only 4 days before a CF Montreal last home game of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree, knowing that the last time that we received a Canada soccer, a Canada men's national team game was when Anthony Jackson Hamel was a starter, or you won't, you won't accept? Let's start with Alex again.
I think you'd have to accept. I think Montreal, if they want to, they have to, if they want to be involved with the hosting the men's national team more, they need to get these sorts of games, especially after 2026. So if it means that something as unsexy as a Belize on, I assume, what a Tuesday night, you take it, you convince people to fill the stadium, show that you can be a national team venue, and that, hey, even in the right circumstances, the Big O in an alternate reality where the Big O is fixed and maybe even has grass, although I don't want to be too big of a dreamer, but you can also fill the Big O one day. But I think Montreal just needs to show that they can be a national team. So it's just so much such a weird relationship, like ill will, just this kind of weird relationship. I feel like a game like that, as ugly as it would be a way to fix it. The same way that a game like New Zealand for the women's team really, gave Montreal a good image. Montreal, it was a bit unlucky. It was like pouring rain,
Oh, it was
but I
horrible
still
weather.
Yeah, it was there.
showed out, relatively well on short notice. And I think it kind of gave them a bit of a better image. They need to continue to do things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Eve.
Yeah, the way Montreal has failed to show up for the national team in the past, beggars can't be choosers. You got to take what you can get. Yes, I would say yes to this. I think as well there's a way more effective marketing team in Montreal in place, and so I think like the circumstances around when Crosell visited the Impact, where Canada, whatever, are different now from a marketing standpoint. So I think they might be able to be a little more active in selling those seats.
Sam?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean,
Oh, wow. Okay. I'm surprised.
but go ahead, Eddie. Why?
No, go ahead. Go
But I have
ahead.
the same. I have the same reasons as Alex and Eve. It's just at some point we need a game in Montreal, and we have to get our that national team vibe going back. And you see we've been complaining a bit because we didn't have any games during qualifiers or even the recent the Nations Cup games that were not coming here. So we'll take whatever comes, and if we're gonna complain that we don't get games, when we get one game, we have to fill the stadium and make it an event, even though it's on a Tuesday and whatever, and it's against Belize. We have to make it count.
Wow. Okay, I'm very, very surprised. I thought I was going to be a bit harder as a choice. To be honest, for me, I wouldn't accept it. And the reason behind it is very simple. Like, CF Montreal has trouble filling their stadium, being first in the East. First in the East, and they have trouble filling their stadium. Like, getting Belize with the Canadian national team, knowing that there's, of course, the big political problem here in Montreal with a lot of people from Quebec not following the men's national team because it's Canada and the whole problem. You're getting again a very small team like Belize. I feel that we're being set up for failure again.
No.
That's
I want
what I feel.
But even if they don't follow the men's national team because the Quebecois people don't, because some people and please don't throw everyone all into one bucket or the other, and I'm not trying to do that. But for people who aren't interested in the Canadian national team for whatever reason they so choose, there are still going to be incredibly talented players who you will never have the chance to see, most likely, like a Jonathan David, like an Alphonso Davies. And for lots of people, we've seen it when Real Madrid came and, just freaking trained. They, had 10,000 people. So, I mean, there's also just those individual talents that are worth watching, Hady.
Zlatan
I completely agree. I completely agree. But again, that's your opinion. And I don't think that it's going to be the opinion of every average Joe that usually goes to Stade Saputo. That's my only concern. And, again, you're talking about Zlatan and you're talking about Real Madrid and sexy opponents, right? And of course, you have also Montreal being CF Montreal at the Impact back then when there was AS Roma. That's also sexy because it's your local team. But now you're going with Canada, which is not, if you are someone that doesn't really follow the Canadian national team, you're not really excited about it because it's not, in your opinion, not your national team. And then you get Belize as an opponent. So I think again that we're being set up for failure, and I wouldn't accept that.
But you know what?
I would have wanted a worthy opponent for the return at Stade Saputo. And I think,
bro, what has Stade Saputo done to deserve anything better than a Belize?
I think
or better than a Cayman Islands, or better than a Bermuda?
I think it's important for Gabriel Gervais to put his foot and his foot forward and say, you know what, man, no, I think we need better. We need a better opponent. We need a better opportunity. Like, we deserve a better opportunity because of what we were able to present for what we did with the women's national team. And I think we deserve that chance. So I don't know. I don't really agree with that. Now let's move on with the last the third choice that I have for you guys. You guys are John Herdman, and for the last international window before the World Cup, you have a choice for your last international friendlies. You have two friendlies. The first one is Serbia and Brazil. The second choice is Tunisia and Argentina, and the third one is Colombia and the Netherlands. So I'll repeat: Serbia and Brazil, Tunisia and Argentina, Colombia and the Netherlands. Which one would you choose and why? Who wants to start first?
I'm just mulling it all over.
Okay. It was Tunisia.
Write this
it was
down.
Tunisia and the Netherlands.
And Argentina.
It's Serbia, Brazil, Tunisia, Argentina, Colombia, and the Netherlands.
I'd go with Colombia and the Netherlands, I think.
Okay. Do you know why? Or
I think, playing against a Brazil and playing against an Argentina and are obviously big and Tunisia's kind of weird because isn't Montreal or Canada going to play Tunisia in the World Cup?
No, it's Morocco, right?
Morocco, yeah.
Oh, my bad.
Morocco.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Two different countries.
I know that. Thank you very much. I was getting my World Cup groups mixed up. Clear. Oh, Sunday Scaries have kicked in. Sorry. No, I like the level of those two teams. Obviously, it would be good to play against a European opponent for sure. And Netherlands are becoming a way more competitive squad after kind of some years in the dark there, after their most recent World Cup in South Africa. But I think they'd be a really interesting, they have a young core, a lot like Canada, and I think they'd be a really interesting opponent. And then Colombia as well, they underperformed. I think they would have a big point to prove in the fact that they underperformed so badly in their World Cup qualifications. I think they really need to recover some of their image and their reputation. And so I think that they would, even regardless of like the circumstances, I think they would want to play hard, play intense, which is what you need.
Okay, who wants to go next?
Yeah,
Go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, go for it. I started all the other ones. I'll finish.
I'd go for Tunisia and Argentina. The reason is, Africa in itself has a very particular style that Canada hasn't faced often, and the north of Africa, Maghreb, has that very particular style too. And I think Tunisia could be a good test for Canada going into that Morocco game, and afterwards you just get Argentina, who's a powerhouse. So you'll have that feeling that you'll get against Belgium. So that's probably where I'd go. But all three are tempting. But I think technically wise, and what could be the better matchup to help us go in? I think it would be Tunisia and Argentina.
Mm-hmm.
Alex?
Yeah, I'm looking. I think for me, all three are good choices. In the Colombia plus Netherlands section, I like the Netherlands in the sense it's like a similar-ish matchup to that Belgium one. I think Belgium obviously better players, but it's still, you kind of got that similar echelon of team. But I just think Colombia, what they offered this qualifiers, they struggled to score goals. At one point, they went 7 games without scoring a goal, which is ridiculous. I don't think Canada needs to play an opponent like that. Is, while they will be hungry, I think Canada does need to. Colombia is a great team. I just think the lack of goals is a bit of a worry. So that kind of washes that one out for me. Then Tunisia plus Argentina. I love the Argentina matchup. But you look at Tunisia, them and Morocco, they're just a bit different in the sense where Morocco in this qualifiers, they've been scoring a lot more goals, where Tunisia is kind of a little more defensive. So you're not even really preparing that. And Canada played a lot of teams like Tunisia in CONCACAF, whereas on their day in El Salvador, Panama, they kind of have similar profiles. I think Tunisia is miles better than them, or at least I think Tunisia is super underrated, but I think stylistically, I'm not a big fan of that matchup. So for me, it would be Brazil and Serbia, because you get the big game of Brazil, which is very much like a Belgium. We saw how fun it was when they met in 2018. You get your Neymars, you get your fun with that, etc. It's a fun game. And then Serbia is good because they're, you could have the fun game of, it's the Stefan Mitrovic game. Whoever wins to Stefan Mitrovic or some sort of joke. But even jokes aside on that, you look at some of the players, they have Dusan Vlahovic, or I probably butchered his name, but he's a fantastic striker. You look at some of the players they have, like Sergej Milinkovic-Savic, a lot of their strong midfielders, the way they attack, I think that would offer them a very similar Croatia team, because we also forget Croatia isn't in Canada's group, and could be a good matchup to kind of get used to the bigger teams, whereas with Morocco, I just don't think Tunisia or Colombia offer a similar preparation to them.
Alex, I hate you because you stole all my words. I swear, man, it feels like that was exactly what I was gonna say. Milinkovic-Savic. I was gonna talk the proximity between Serbia and Croatia. Nice. And there's one thing that you didn't say. I'm born in Lebanon, right? And I lived in Lebanon, and I'm Canadian too. So my national teams have never been powerhouses, in the world. So I always had to support a team in the international cups. So this is my team. So that's the last thing that you didn't have, that you didn't steal from me, Alex. So that's why I would choose Serbia and Brazil.
Yeah, wait till I grab the Brazil jerseys out of my closet.
No, but seriously, I think that would be a very good preparation for the World Cup. I think, like you said, Alex, all 3 choices are great. But I have Serbia and Brazil for all the reasons that you mentioned. For me, will be my choice. And I think it's going to be very exciting to see how the friendlies are going to be set up, if friendlies there will be, right? Because we don't know how. We don't have the dates for the next the Nations League. We only have the first couple of dates. We don't have the rest. So maybe in September we'll have Nations League again. So we'll see. But it's going to be very exciting ahead of the World Cup to see how John Herdman is going to prepare his team. So that's it for me.
Yeah, that's it for us. Thanks everyone who rode with us till the end. It was a packed show. We were very, very happy and lucky to have Alex Gangué-Ruzic on. Alex, just before we close out, if anyone wants to follow you on social media, if someone doesn't follow you yet,
exactly.
Media, seriously,
where can they
what
find
rock
you?
Do you live under?
You know what? Just ask your followers to follow us. That's all we want.
No.
Well, I'm saying, if anyone who isn't following you guys, make sure to follow you, because if you guys got a direct line, if Hady ever says I'm hopping on, it's always so fun to just come on the show. Thanks, chat, man. Montreal, chat. I love the segments, the social media, the choices. It's always awesome to hop on. So pleasure to join you guys. Hopefully, hopefully we meet again soon, and hopefully I make it over to Montreal. Last time I made it, I was just able to see Hady, but hopefully we can get the whole Ballers Round gang together to see all you guys. So that'd be awesome. Hopefully,
for sure. Thanks, Hady. Thanks, Eve. It was fun once again spending the night with you guys talking Canada soccer and Montreal. And for the rest of the week, guys, take care, everyone, and we'll see you once again. It's Sunday, 6:30, our next episode of The Ball Is Round.